Hi, so I wanted to talk to you about what you should have in your critical thinking essay using these points that are on the notes, but also showing you through some of the examples that I've posted what they should look like. So the first thing it says, do you make the question clear and the answer or thesis in the introduction? So first off, as you see from these different examples, you want to make sure it's clear what the question is. You can either just ask the question, you probably want to put that in quotes if you do, or just make it clear what the problem is that you're addressing. So here we have the example, can money buy happiness, right? The second one here is, can you be a conscientious objector, right? This third one, it does make it clear in the title, so that's something you want to make sure that you think of. It says, in order to think for yourself, a person must gather information and decide what information they will only use to shape their beliefs or make a decision. So this one probably has to do with, can you make your own decisions or not, right? Those kinds of things. And then here's this last one. Again, are commandments absolute pronouncements of right and wrong in all situations? And again, if you use the exact wording from the prompt, you do want to put it in quotation marks since it's not your original wording. So things like that, you can see there's the actual question, and then we ask you about the thesis. I just want to show you a little bit more and talk about what a thesis is. So sometimes people get confused on what a thesis is, and we do want you to remember that it's the answer to the question you're addressing, usually at the end of the first paragraph. Each point you make refers back to and supports your thesis. So you want to make sure that you have this part usually at the beginning of your paper, at the end of the first paragraph, that you make sure each paragraph has something to do with that, and you refer back to that. And also, as we said, that that you conclude your paper by summing up all the points you made and reiterating your thesis. So a lot of the times it will have different points that you're going to talk about. So it says classical works of literature containing some amounts of sex violence and or bad language should be taught at LES schools. The organization, each of the 3 paragraphs, the follower paragraphs will talk about 1, sex, 2, violence, and 3, bad language. So it should also be something that gives us a structure to your paper. Here's another approach from the opposing view that can be used. The thesis, classical works of literature containing some amounts of sex violence and or bad language should not be taught at LES schools because of this, this, and this. So those are all examples. There is a video as well as another one that I'm going to post here. So make sure that you look, if you want some more feedback on that, look at the videos as well as the easy thesis generator. So that will give you an idea of how to put together a thesis. So let's just give you some examples. So, and again, usually you're going to have it at the end of the first paragraph. So I believe the answer lies in how we use it, or as the author Anne writes, simply says, money is only a tool. It will take whatever you wish, but it will not replace you as the driver. So there we have that example. And I said, I fully support the rights of those who deem themselves conscientious objectors, right? And again, these ones are probably okay examples, but again, we want them to also show us where you're going with this. It says here, guidelines give directions but not laws. I think that's the last one. And so each of these are really good examples of stances. And we'll just show you a little bit better example of how to put in your reasons and have them shape paragraphs. Just a second. Again, as we said, right, those were really good examples of having a topic and a stance, but also make sure that you include rationales or concessions that you're going to make, and those a lot of times are going to be the points that you're making. So for example, we said because, right, point, point, point. So here's an example of that. Because it is unfair to judge anyone's fitness for college on grounds other than academic merit. You could also have a comma here and other points that you're going to talk about. And then here, if you're going to make concessions, which you should be doing, or talking about opposing ideas in this paper. And in other papers, it may be optional if it's not a big part of the paper, but in this one, we do want you to look at both sides. And you use wording probably like, although affirmative action leads to greater diversity on college campuses. And usually you're going to either deal with these first, last, or you might have a point of view that comes up with each point that you're talking about. So you'll want to organize your thesis to follow whatever order your paper is using. So here's an example of the affirmative action policies lead to greater diversity on college campuses, which means they're going to talk about it first. They should be abandoned because it is unfair to judge anyone's fitness for college on race. And they talk about how this second point here would be the next paragraph after that. So thinking about thesis, it's really important to kind of, as we get into our more persuasive essays. And this also gets into the next point. Did you include an opposing view section of your papers? Fairly addressing the opposing side is an essential component of credible persuasive papers. When you successfully concede and refute your opposition, and it's important to do both, it actually strengthens your argument, and so it requires that you address the opposing view in your paper. It's a clear requirement. So again, look at the rubric, and sometimes it can be, as I said, in different paragraphs. Sometimes it's going to be first or last, but you just figure out what's going to be the easiest for you. As I said, avoid using the words "I believe" or "in my opinion" in your persuasive paper. Just eliminate those sentences because they downplay the strength of your statements. For example, said, "In my opinion, texting and driving should be illegal," versus "texting and driving should be illegal." So the idea is the same, but the second statement is stronger. And again, remember, as we're going now from these personal kind of writing assignments to more persuasive, and as you're thinking more about your academic audience, then you want to be a little bit more formal. So especially now, make sure that you're not breaking the rules, that you're using in good sources. And as I said, you can cite sources. You'll probably want to use scripture or talks or different things like that. And if you do, you want to cite your sources. So I do say plagiarism is often easy to do it, intentionally or unintentionally. So as we switch to this type of writing, so this video will talk more about that. When you will be turning your essay in on OnLearn and Grammarly. So we have been using the option of Grammarly all along, but now I do want you to make sure that you especially do it at least to do the plagiarism checker, so that you have that. So if you have any issues with anything, that you fix them. So think about that. And then of course, make sure that one thing that we didn't talk about is just make sure that you're also thinking about formatting. So again, MLA would be times 0, 1, 12 point, double space. And then also for MLA, you include this heading right here and this header on the left side. And you have to insert the header using the page number here. I like to do the page number first with top of page and pick this option. And then also putting in your last name with 1 space. Make sure also, if you haven't set your default, that's an important part to do as well, right? Make sure you go to Home. You can set your font defaults by clicking on this box, Set as Default. And then also Paragraph. An easy one that people sometimes forget is before and after, 0 point. Make sure that this is set to double, set as your default in all documents. So if you haven't done those, make sure that you do if you have your own computer. Let me know if you have any questions.